I am making a malefic deck profile, mainly because I finally managed to get everything I needed for the deck, and I realized it had been a while since I last made a malefic deck profile, so I figured why not go ahead and make an update to it. Malefic overall is one of those decks where you need to have a field spell in play, because most of the monsters will just self-destruct, and unless you're able to start off with a specific spell card, then you probably just won't be playing as much as you'd like. But this is just like a test version of the deck. I know there's a couple things I know I want to do with the deck, but most of those are for side options. But starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Malefic Paradox Gear. Paradox Gear has the effect that if a face-up field spell is on the field, you contribute it, special summon a Malefic Parallel Gear from your deck, and add a Malefic monster from your deck to your hand, except for another Malefic Paradox Gear. What that effect does is it sets you up for a level 10 Synchro Summon, as Malefic Parallel Gear has the effect that if you use it for the Synchro Summon, it has to be with a Malefic monster that's in your hand. So you can Synchro Summon any monster that's level 9, 10, and 12, I believe, as long as it requires 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters. I'm going to rephrase that. If it can be made with 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner, you can play it in this deck. So like Trishula is not working, or Trishula won't work, but any other level 9, 10, and 12 synchros would be perfectly fine. And then, speaking of which, in its last effect is if you would summon a Malefic monster by banishing a monster from your deck or extra deck, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. And you can only use each effect on Malefic Paradox Gear once per turn. And speaking of Parallel Gear, I also play 3 copies of Parallel Gear. Like I said, if you use a Synchro Summon, the other monster has to be a Malefic monster in your hand. And then next, I play 3 copies of Malefic Stardust Dragon. Malefic Stardust Dragon has to be special summoned by banishing a Stardust Dragon from your extra deck. And then, while it's on the field spells cannot be destroyed by card effects, and then other monsters you control can't attack. And if there's not a field spell in play, destroy this card. The part of if there's not a field spell, just destroy this card, and other monsters you control can't attack, is an effect shared by all the rest of the Malefic monsters, I think, except maybe 1 or 2. But I'll explain why that's not a bad thing once I get to the spell card. And next, I play 3 copies of Malefic Blue Eyes. Malefic Blue Eyes is just in here because it's level 8, and you can use it with another spell in the deck, and you can tune it from your hand with Malefic Parallel Gear. Then I play 1 copy of Malefic Rainbow Dragon, just because, why not? It's basically just a 4,000 body, and that's it. Let's see. And then I play 3 copies of Malefic Cyber End. Malefic Cyber End has to be special summoned by banishing Cyber End Dragon from your extra deck. And then from there, it's the generic Malefic monster. If there's no field spell, it dies. Other monsters can't attack. Next, I play 3 copies of Malefic Paradigm Dragon. Malefic Paradigm Dragon has the effect that it cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by banishing a Malefic monster from your extra deck. While Malefic Paradox Dragon is not on the field. Okay, my brain did not want to finish that for some reason. Because usually you're banishing Malefic Paradox Dragon to summon this, so you don't want to have a Malefic Paradox Dragon in play to summon it for some reason. But it also has the effect that when a Synchro monster is banished, you can return it to the extra deck and summon a Synchro monster of the same name. Which usually you want to summon this before summoning Malefic Stardust, because then you can summon it back to Stardust Dragon. And if I remember correctly, though, the summon monster can't attack. Let's see. Okay, you can only attack with Malefic monsters for the rest of the turn. That's how it works. And then lastly, for the Malefic monsters, just because I feel like it wouldn't be fair to play without their actual boss monster, I play the 1 copy of Malefic Truth Dragon. Let's see if I can make it better. Malefic Truth Dragon has the effect that if a malefic monster is destroyed by card effect, or by battle or card effect, you can pay half your life points, special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. And then if it destroys a monster in battle, you destroy all monsters your opponent controls. And I feel like there was more to it than that. Let's see, there can only be one. Malefic, okay. Oh yeah, the one thing I realized I forgot to mention is all the most of the malefic monsters, exception to Paradigm, Gear, Parallel Gear, Paradox Gear, and I think Malefic Paradox Dragon as well. Yeah. I'll say there can only be one face-up malefic monster, which again explains why the spell card is so important when I get to it. But anyway, speaking of spells, I play... Whoops. Accidentally hit the camera. One copy of Called by the Grave. Just lets you target any effect monster in the graveyard, negates effects for the turn, by banishing it from the graveyard. And then I also play one copy of 1-for-1. This just lets you send a monster from your hand or face-up field to grave, special on a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. Then I play 3 copies of Trade-In. I'm currently trying out Trade-In. If I don't like it, then I'll probably end up replacing it with Pot of Prosperity. And then next, I'm trying this one at 3. I'm probably going to end up not liking it, but for now I actually do like it, which is 3 copies of Malefic Selector. This lets you banish 2 Malefic cards from your graveyards and then add 2 Malefic cards that have different names from each other, or the banished cards from your deck to your hand, except for Malefic Selector. So one thing you can do with this is, like, you can banish Parallel Gear and Blue Eyes to then be able to add Malefic Territory and Malefic Stardust, as just an example. But usually that is what you would add. And then I also play 3 copies of Malefic Divide. Malefic Divide lets you target a Malefic monster in your graveyard, special summon it, ignoring summoning conditions, however its effects are negated, and it's banished during the end phase. Usually I just play this if I need more damage, which one thing I like about this deck is it summons a bunch of big monsters for no reason. Next I play 3 copies of Malefic Territory. Malefic Territory is the card that if you don't see in this deck, you are losing. But Malefic Territory has the effect that when it's activated, you can activate a Malefic World from your deck, and then while it's on the field, or it also prevents... what is its protection? Okay. But it also has the protection effect that while the Malefic World that was placed in your field zone by its effect is implied, and your opponent then neither player can target cards in the field spell zones. And its other effect is that it changes the effect of the Malefic monsters from you can only have one to you can only have one of each name, and then negates their effects during the battle phase so that they all can attack instead of none of them. And then next I play 3 copies of Malefic World. Malefic World just has the effect that during your draw phase, instead of conducting your normal draw phase, you can take 3 Malefic monsters from your deck with different names. As I believe they have to be different names. Nope, they can't be the same name. But you reveal 3 Malefic cards in your deck. Your opponent chooses one at random to add to your hand, and the rest are shuffled back into the deck. The only downside of this is that if you do use this effect and it gets ashed, your draw phase is basically skipped. And then finally, for the traps, I play 3 copies of Malefic Tune. If I don't like this card, I'm going to end up replacing it with either Eradicator Epidemic and Side Deck Devastation Virus, or vice versa. Probably going to Side Deck Devastation Virus. But Malefic Tune just has the effect that if a face-up Malefic monster you control is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, you can draw 2 cards. And if a face-up Malefic monster you control is destroyed while its card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a Malefic monster from your deck to your hand. So I just like it because it lets you draw, and then you can banish it from grave on conditions that let you search. which technically can be if there's no field spell, you just summon a malefic and that dies because of its own effect. But anyway, like I said, this is just an experimental version, and that's what I have for now. The main things I would change is taking out malefic tunes for eradicating epidemic virus, and then trade-ins for Pot Prosperity. And then for the extra deck, I play 3 copies of Cyber End Dragon, just so you can banish them and play Malefic Cyber End. 3 copies of Stardust Dragon. You just banishes some Malefic Stardust, and then if you had Malefic Paradigm Dragon in play, you can return this to the extra deck, and then summon it from the extra deck. The only downside is, unless Paradigm says otherwise, it is not treated as a synchro summon, so if Stardust does tribute itself to negate the destruction of something, Stardust does not come back. Let's see. Yeah, Paradigm does not say otherwise, so Stardust cannot summon itself back if you summon it off of Malefic Paradigm Dragon. Then I play 3 copies of Malefic Paradox Dragon. Paradox Dragon is actually kind of useful, but you only really need to summon 1. But I like it because it has the effect that when it's synchro summoned, you can target a synchro monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And then, however, unlike the rest of the Malefics, this one will self-destruct, and Malefic World specifically is not in play. And then, for the rest of the extra deck, I am playing 2 copies of Baron de Fleur. Baron has the effect, well, once while it's face up on the field, it can, if one activates a card or effect, it can negate and destroy it. Once per turn, it can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. And then during your standby phase, you can target a level 9 or lower monster in your graveyard, shuffle this card into the extra deck, and then you can special summon that monster from the graveyard. Then I play 1 copy of Ching-Ying. Ching-Ying, I found, is actually kind of stupid in this deck, as you can trigger its effect just by summoning a Malefic monster. But Ching-Ying has the effect where if it would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish a card from your graveyard instead. And then if a card or it gains 100 attack for each banished card, and your opponent's monsters lose 100 attack and defense for each banished card. And its final effect is if a card is banished, you can activate its effect to banish a card from your opponent's field and graveyard. Then I play 1 copy of Ruddy Rose Dragon. Ruddy Rose in this deck just has the effect that when it's summoned to banish the graveyard. Ruddy Rose usually won't be used unless it's against attack like Tearlament. And then, or technically also the any Horus deck, as it'll banish all the Horus monsters from grave. And then lastly, I would play 2 copies of Chaos Angel. However, I can't find them. So, for now, I'm just proxying them. Or what I might end up doing is, instead, just find other monsters to use. Like, I think it was Beelzeus, the Diabolical Dragon. Or the synchro version of Dragon. I think it was Dragositos. It was other options. But for now, I'm just using the 2 Chaos Angels. Which, in this deck, the only effect Chaos Angel will be able to use will be its... I believe your monster just can't be destroyed by battle. I believe it's the only one. It's whatever its dark effect is. I genuinely don't remember. But the other thing is, if Chaos Angel is special summoned, you get to target 1 card your opponent controls and banish it. Anyway, that's it for my Malefic deck profile. If you have any ideas what I can do to improve the deck, any ideas for decks like to see be made in the future, or decks like to see face each other, feel free to comment down below. Thank you for watching.